นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ Blessings, good evening. Just now we chanted the Buddha's words on loving kindness and then the verses on sharing merit. And one of the themes that runs through the Buddha's teachings is the idea that when we spread thoughts of compassion or share merit or just think of other people with a mind of kindness, goodwill, there's no distinction between beings when we do this on the highest level. Although sometimes we're just with one person and maybe have focus on that person, when we meditate or just establish the aspiration to develop goodwill or compassion or share merit, we call this the mind that is boundless. That's what we're aiming at anyway. Boundless, without limit, without end. So we say metta appamanya. Appamanya means in all directions to all beings without limit. Or karuna appamanya. These are the appamanya dhammas. It's something that many people are attracted to when they come to the Buddhist teachings, because even though sometimes as human beings we find it difficult to get on together, we have conflicts and differences of opinion, sometimes even to the most deadly level. We can't agree on things, so we fight. But when you're training your mind, following the Buddhist path, your goal is the highest goal of cultivating kindness and compassion to all beings without exception, without limit. Because all beings are born with mental defilements, rooted in greed, anger, delusion, wrong views, cravings, attachments. And that's why we do have conflicts and biases in our behaviour and problems between people. But nevertheless, you're also, as you practice and become more aware of the mind, your mind, you become more aware of how it can cultivate the highest thought of when in regards to compassion or kindness, one of wishing all beings well, even beings who have harmed us in the past. Because to hold on to thoughts of anger, seek revenge and so on, it's actually harming oneself. Even if you don't put them into action, already you're harming your own peace of mind, taking that away. So the Buddha's teachings come from a mind that is expressing what we call Maha Karuna, great compassion, Maha Panya, great wisdom, Maha Barisutti, great purity, freedom from mental defilements. Those are the qualities of the Buddha. And we're following in his footsteps because the Buddha said this is what human beings can achieve through practice, through training themselves. This is the highest that human beings can experience. And we should, as human beings, because we have this potential in us, work towards the highest. However many obstacles and challenges we may encounter along the way, we can practice this and aspire to this. So to reach that point where the mind is free from defilement, experiencing great compassion, great wisdom, well, we have to have some goals, and we have to have a method, a way to get there. And that method we call the Noble Eightfold Path. You notice the Noble Eightfold Path begins with Sammaditthi, because we have to have some understanding already as we begin practicing, and why we're doing it, how to do it, so that we can cultivate the right things that will lead us to this goal of compassion, wisdom, purity. Could be possible you can hear the wrong teachings or head off in the wrong direction and make things harder for yourself, which does happen, unfortunately. Sometimes we follow our own thoughts and views too much and get it wrong. Sometimes we follow other people's ideas, opinions, teachings, and they've got it wrong, so they pass that on to us. So the Buddha said it's important to seek out true, wise, good teachers, and starting with the word of the Buddha himself. So we read that or listen to that, but then also teachers who have practiced, and realized some of the things or all of the things that the Buddha has realized. And so they can pass on to us what is the right path. So respecting the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, seeking out teachers is a huge part of establishing right view, right understanding of the way things are, and then developing this mind and our life in a way that will put those teachings into practice. So we have right thought or right aspiration, sometimes translated as right intention, samma sankappa. Having heard the Dhamma, we know this, and we can divide your intentions, generally speaking, into the wholesome and the unwholesome. And you have to get to know that. And your actions and your speech have to match that as well. We have right view leading on to right action, right speech, right livelihood. Speech and action that will be conducive to training the mind for this higher goal. A mind free from suffering, free from the defilements. And then probably the hardest part of the path is, which is why it's at the end, is the training of the mind in mindfulness and developing samadhi, calm, concentration, one-pointedness, because that takes effort and time and practice, and it's very frustrating, so we often give up because of our frustrations in training our minds. Nevertheless, if we're following the Buddha, we have no choice but really just to keep at it, however long it will take, however hard it seems, just to keep at it. And we've been given very good instructions, samma vayama, right effort, the effort to cultivate the wholesome, abandon the unwholesome, right mindfulness. The Buddha described how to develop mindfulness, where to put it, as it were, what to be mindful of, how to use it as a tool to train the mind. And right samadhi, what that involves, and why it's necessary. So he says samadhi is this aspect of being firm, the firmness of mind. Because in order to complete the path, to really root out our delusions, our wrong views, our attachments, cravings, the mind, you have to have something firm in your mind in order to see what is not firm. And one of the characteristics of mental defilements, greed, anger, delusion, is that it doesn't lead to firmness of mind. They agitate your mind. They shake up your mind, they destabilize your mind. So aspiring to develop samadhi is going to help you to see what is not samadhi and what is not peaceful and what is not happy. And other attributes of the mind of samadhi, one-pointedness, are the mind is peaceful, happy, and they have a word, gamanyo, is ready for work, ready to be used. Your mind is in the best state to be used to contemplate, to understand things, to know things, see things, when you develop some one-pointedness, that stability of mind. The mind becomes ready. It's also a mind that is content, happy. So, as you practice more samadhi in daily life, you experience the fruits of that. Maybe you feel more relaxed in your body and your mind. But it's something we have to keep working at, because samadhi is like any other part of the practice. It's what we call sankhara. It's still something that you have to develop and bring up, and it can disappear again. So you have to keep practicing, developing it. But as you practice, you tend to get better at it, like anything else in life. If you know the method, you put the method into practice more often, then you understand more what you have to do, what you have to abandon, what you have to cultivate, what the obstacles are, what leads to success. You get to understand and know that more through the practice. Where does samadhi come from? Well, in essence, it comes from practicing mindfulness. Sati, samma sati, right mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Well, in essence, it's being able to recollect, keep in mind various things. So particularly when you're developing samadhi, you keep in mind an object, a meditation object, such as the breath. When you're mindful of the breath, it means you're keeping it in mind, you're remembering and not forgetting the breath. But you can also be mindful of your speech, your actions, you're mindful of precepts, mindful of different guidelines and ways of doing things. You can be mindful of teachings. So mindfulness can lead directly to wisdom as well. And the reason we need to put effort into developing mindfulness and from that developing samadhi is because our mind is, in the beginning, untrained. You might even say wild, untamed. So the Buddha compared it to an animal from the jungle. Many animals are tameable, but that takes effort, time, practice again. So they say, well, if you're taming, it could be a wild buffalo in the old days. Even nowadays in Australia, they still have wild buffalo. So you're going to train a wild buffalo. You need to get a rope and tie it around its neck, and then You need a strong, firm stake in the ground to tie that rope to. And you have to keep watching your buffalo and make sure the rope is tied tightly enough and that it can't escape. And gradually it will keep running away until it gets fed up running away to the end of the rope, and it will start being more tamed, more placid, more cooperative. So they compare the buffalo to the untamed mind, full of emotions and thoughts and ideas. Even when we practice Dhamma, even when we practice meditation, one of our biggest obstacles is overcoming our own ideas about meditation and what this person said, what that person said, and how we feel. We want to do it and then we don't want to do it. We like it, we don't like it. All of this is compared to the wild buffalo that's just running around. But our aim is to train the mind and to bring it more under control, to tame it. So we need an object such as the breath. So the breath is like the post that you drive into the ground. And then you need mindfulness, which is the rope. It links the post and the buffalo. And the rope is strong, and it's a limit because it's only got a certain distance to it, or however many meters of rope you've got, and that's the limit for the buffalo, how far it can run. What the rope tends to do as the buffalo runs away from the post is it pulls the buffalo back to the post. And that's part of what mindfulness does. Once you've decided you're going to, say, practice mindfulness of breathing, your practice of mindfulness will pull the mind to the breath, away from its habit of endlessly following thinking, worrying, different emotions, pleasure, pain, excitement, boredom, all the usual movements of the mind and moods. It pulls the mind back. And that's something we have to practice in. And at first, just like a buffalo, wild buffalo, we don't like it. We don't like to put attention on the breath. We can do it for a few moments. We prefer just to let the mind roam free, but of course our wisdom, our right view might tell us, well, we've done a lot of roaming free and it didn't bring us that much peace and happiness in the past. In fact, we had a lot of stress and suffering, which is probably why you've come to learn meditation and practice Dhamma. So even though we say, oh, we like to be free to roam around like the wild animal in the forest, actually the state of being free or untamed, untrained, is not good, because it's like a life full of stress and suffering and problems. And in order to get true freedom, we have to train the mind. So we have to be willing to use meditation objects like the breath, or loving kindness, or contemplation of the body, in order to train the mind to be more stable, more steady, to have mindfulness. So we practice, and if you keep practicing, then your mindfulness improves, doesn't it? Your ability to pull the mind back to its object, to the present moment, improves, and with that you feel better, put it simply. That's why they use meditation so much these days to deal with things like PTSD and various kinds of mental illness and trauma. It can't solve every problem, and it has to be done correctly, but basically bringing your mind or training your mind in mindfulness brings you more control. The alternative is a mind that is just prey to endless emotional instability and worrying and fears and anxieties. It's not so happy. But when we practice mindfulness, it becomes more stabilized and more under our control. And the benefit of that is you do feel better. You feel more peaceful, more content, more happy, even for short periods sometimes, but still better than nothing. But even more valuable is this readiness of the mind, preparedness of the mind to then contemplate. This quality of gamanyo means it's ready for action, ready for work. And the mind that is ready for work, meaning the mind that is more stable, steady, peaceful, can be turned to contemplate or investigate things, contemplate things, observe the way things are. Even though it uses up energy to contemplate, to observe, you get that energy from the mindfulness, from the samadhi. If we never practice mindfulness, never develop much samadhi, well, you could say, well, I can still contemplate. You can, but it tends to be much more limited because you can't pay attention for so long. The mind is not so clear, it's not so energized. And so whatever you're looking at, contemplating, trying to understand, your ability to do that is not so good. The mind is not so ready for work. So it easily falls into distraction when we're not very mindful. Easily distracted, easily follow our moods. And the mind is just not so well prepared. But you notice when you do feel more calm and mindfulness is more present, you can turn to look at things and stay with whatever it is you're directing your mind to know better, for longer. And you can see more clearly. So if you, for example, you can contemplate the body, you can actually stay with some aspect of the physical body for longer because you're mindful and because samadhi is keeping your mind and body calm. You feel light and your mind is willing to work. It's got the bright energy of samadhi to do that. Or you're contemplating feelings, pleasant, unpleasant or neutral feelings, how they arise, how they pass away, how they stimulate different emotional reactions and trains of thought. When you have some steadiness of mind from the samadhi, you can do that. Strong samadhi, well, most feelings and emotions disappear for a while. They go, you get a break from them, but you can't always get wisdom just by developing strong samadhi. You also have to contemplate things. So sometimes you don't use the deepest level of samadhi. You use a more modest level of samadhi where you can still observe thoughts, emotional reactions, rising, passing away, sensations in the body, and so on. You can observe things coming up, but you have enough stability of mind to do that. You can follow a train of thought and say, this train of thought has a beginning, has an end. You can catch maybe when various trains of thought or particular moods you've been experiencing, when they do end, maybe you notice the space between thoughts, between one mood and the next, one train of thought and the next, one emotion and the next. And especially if you become more stable in your meditation, you can sit a bit longer with a steady mind, you can walk meditation for longer periods with a steady mind. Almost certainly you'll see a variety of different mental experiences coming and going, arising and ceasing. And you're clear enough and your awareness and your concentration is steady enough that you can see clearly that oh, that train of thought is impermanent, comes and goes. And if that reflection takes place, usually that gives you an insight into impermanence, which loosens your habitual attachment to every thought and every memory and every feeling. The untrained mind tends to rush around following everything that comes up, liking, disliking, so we spend a lot of our time just trying to get away from what we don't like and fill our mind with an experience that we do like, because it's enjoyable, keeps us occupied for a while, pleasantly occupied, hopefully. Well, we never really escape this arising and ceasing of pleasure and pain, happiness and sadness. When you have a trained mind, or you are training your mind, even if the pleasant experience fades, it doesn't mean to say your mind slips into suffering. You can just know, oh, now it's gone, without suffering or worrying about it or getting stressed, upset about the fact that it's gone. You just know it. And that's different from the normal state of mind, isn't it? Normal state of mind. When you lose something you like, whether it's a material object or a particular feeling, something that makes you satisfied, happy, when you lose that, when you have the sense of loss, you miss it, you want it back, you're not happy. Some kind of craving is stimulated, or what replaces it, which may be worse, brings up a big reaction of, oh, I don't like this, I don't want this. How often do we sort of say things like, oh, my life is already tough enough, bad enough, I don't want more suffering, more things to deal with. The mind of samadhi is not like that, is it? The mind of mindfulness, samadhi, is like, okay, the pleasant thing is gone. Now I'm with something less pleasant, but it may be still, you can, as long as you can maintain your mindfulness, you don't have to react with aversion or suffering. You just know, oh, it's gone. Pain arises, pleasure. There was pleasure before, pain arises. Then the pain passes and maybe pleasure returns. You feel good, you feel bad, you feel good again. But you're becoming mindful of that rather than clinging and reacting to everything. So as you develop more calm, more one-pointedness, more sati, more samadhi, gives you this ability to contemplate things as they are. And you learn from that, you get insight. And the true wisdom, the kind of wisdom that frees us from the causes of suffering, some of that will stay with you. And wisdom isn't simply remembering the Dhamma, it's also actually clearing out pathways in your mind so they stop creating suffering, further suffering in the old way. Because you just know, oh, no point suffering over this or that, or holding on, clinging on to this or that, or reacting in that same old way, because you know it's suffering, so you stop doing it. Your wisdom, true wisdom, must be something like that. That's the way your mind can be a little bit purer, more peaceful, more happy than before. Because you don't, one way of saying it is you don't make so many mistakes as before. So you don't have to suffer as much as before. If you practice that enough, you train the mind enough, then you kind of see what you have to do, even if it's not perfect and you don't always manage to do it, but you know the method, so you can keep applying it. Then you might have enough confidence to say, well, I still suffer, but I can see one day maybe I won't have to suffer because I know how to deal with it and how to let go of the causes. Sometimes Ajahn Chah would ask monks, have you tamed the tiger yet? It's the same sort of thing, taming the mind. I think the Zen tradition used the monk standing on the back of the tiger to symbolize one who's tamed their mind, brought it under their control. So we have to accept, we begin the practice, still got many things we need to learn, to tame, to sort out. But if you keep applying the Dhamma, keep applying the methods of practice, then you can do it. And hopefully you realize you're doing it, you're going in the right direction, so then you have less doubts, less confusion. What is the path? What is not the path? What is the way to practice? What's not the way to practice? And you learn these things. So maybe for tonight I'll leave you with these reflections.